Hi everyone, this is Paul here from the Magdalene Centre. Today I want to talk about the full moon in Gemini, which takes place on Saturday the 3rd of December at 3:46 PM Universal Time. This full moon is consisting of the Sun in Sagittarius and the Moon in Gemini. So the Sun in Sagittarius, there is a video already on this, so I won't go into too much detail, but the Sun in Sagittarius is a time of looking at our own beliefs. It's looking at expanding the mind beyond its current limits. So one of the ways to do this is embracing new experiences and challenging our own perceptions by looking at the beliefs which keep us playing small, causes dissonance, and taking the step to expand our minds. This could be through, Sagittarius can do this in various ways. It could be through physical long distance travel to a place that's got a different cultural ethic, different cultural mindset, or obviously engaging with people, because society is becoming increasingly multicultural. So if we have friends from those different cultures, spending time with that person, trying to understand where they come from, what beliefs their culture raises up them on, and looking at the beliefs with new eyes and looking at our own beliefs through this, because it's difficult to question our own beliefs without having something to bounce off. So if we don't actually interact with people from a variety of different backgrounds, even within the same society, then it's very difficult to challenge our underlying assumptions of how the world works. And we can get bogged down with thinking that the way that we believe is the one and only way, and everyone else is wrong. So this is the shadow side of Sagittarius. The moon in Gemini can help to counteract this, because the moon in Gemini's a student. So if Sagittarius is the teacher or the philosopher, Gemini is a student that is constantly questioning things, asking why is it that way, and it's that sense of innate curiosity. So it's having that childlike part of ourselves that's always questioning, always curious, and always open to new learning. Because the minute we cut ourselves off from new learning, we stagnate as individuals, and our worldview shrinks inwards. So embracing that inner student, which is always questioning things, asking why things have worked a certain way, and being curious about things, this can help to counteract the any stagnation of Sagittarius when the mind becomes closed to new experiences. So this is the balancing side of it. Now we've also got the full moon in Gemini is also a culmination of any intentions we set at the Gemini new moon early in the year around May time. So if we think back to what intentions were set during the May new moon in Gemini, and think or evaluate how they've manifested. So intentions that we may have set around the new moon could have been along lines of expanding our perceptions beyond the current limits, maybe engaging in more conscious conversation with people through listening to what the other person is saying, always endeavouring to try and speak the truth rather than lying, and accepting that truth may vary as we expand our perceptions and see different sides of the same coin. And it's also about things like researching and gathering fact, and also potentially becoming more tactful in our communication with other people. This is a time when we may find ourselves evaluating or having things reflected back to us how these goals have manifested. So this is the harvesting of those goals. Now the ruler of this full moon, Mercury, is turning direct on the same day, or turning retrograde, on the same day. Mercury's in its opposite sign of Sagittarius. Mercury naturally rules Gemini and is used to fast, airy conversation and looking at the fine details. In Sagittarius, Mercury's having to look at the big picture, so it's trying to understand the same things but with a broad brush rather than a thin brush. So this is a time where there's a lot of evaluation going on. It may feel chaotic if we're used to trying to do things in a certain order, or be completely focused in the immediate moment at what we're doing to the exclusion of everything else. Mercury retrograde may well challenge this, so it may feel chaotic if we don't consciously slow ourselves down and try to look at the big picture and understand what is going on. and try to question our beliefs and our underlying assumptions of the big picture of things. This is a time to really question our worldview, the paradigm that we operate within, and to make changes within it based on the insights that Mercury reveals to us. Now, besides this, we also have Neptune in Pisces is forming a T-square to the full moon, so he's square both the sun and the moon. So with Neptune forming this powerful square to the full moon, one of the things we may be challenged to do is the Sun and Neptune square one another is about opening the sense of identity up to recognise that the ego is an illusion but a necessary one in order for us to interact with the world around us, and it's learning to incorporate our spiritual nature into our day-to-day lives rather than trying to separate them. Because if we don't embrace Neptune's energy consciously, then it often manifests things like illusions, deceit, disillusionment, as the precious illusions we've been clinging on to are suddenly revealed to be the falsehoods that they are. And it can also be escapism. So to avoid these pitfalls of Neptune, we need to open our sense of self-identity up to the spiritual energies of Neptune and to understand who we truly are. So it's moving beyond the ego perception of self to the soul self. And it's also learning to embrace or incorporate empathy, compassion and universal love into our sense of identity by allowing the dissolving energy of Neptune to dissolve parts of the identity which we may have cherished for a long time, but they actually keep us stunted and keep us operating from the ego. So Neptune's energy here can allow us to modify our sense of self-identity and also dissolve some of the beliefs guiding that sense of identity in order to allow the more soulful expression of who we are, so allow the higher self to radiate through us rather than being hidden behind a mask. And with a square to the moon, this is about developing an almost all-encompassing compassion. So both the moon and Neptune rule water signs, and the two together brings a lot of emotional energy to it. And the moon's energy normally operates within a container, so it's more like a river. So the banks contain the river, but the water of the emotions is still flowing. Neptune, on the other hand, is more like the cosmic ocean. So the two together is almost like where the river and the sea meet, and that churning of the water is where the two energies are meeting. Now, ideally, this would be a point where emotionally, the moon, we start incorporating that sense of oneness, or that feeling of compassion towards other people and a desire to be nurturing towards other people. So it's embracing compassion and empathy at a deep level and making that part of who we are, and allowing the subconscious to be moulded by compassion rather than fear. So it's allowing, because when Neptune is manifested positively, we experience it as love without boundaries. It's that universal love that radiates from us to everything. It's not being blocked by any judgments or any fears. It's universal love where we feel we can open our heart up completely and allow all that love to pour into us and flow out of us as we're filled up by it. So this is a time where Neptune is challenging us to open our minds up and incorporate love and compassion into it, so that sense of all-pervading connectedness to everything, and allowing that universal love and compassion to become a part of who we are, both at the conscious level of the ego and also in the subconscious level of the mind. So the subconscious mind is being reformed through loving ourselves first, so applying the universal love to ourselves initially, in order to dissolve any structures which lead us to try and keep that universal love at bay out of a sense of not being worthy of it. If we allow this universal love to flow through us and change our sense of identity through realising that we all came from love, and therefore we need to be loving ourselves unconditionally, so that love fills us up and then flows out of us into the world around us and changes the world through changing the overall vibration through that universal love flowing through us. So the full moon in Sagittarius is a time for bringing balance to the mind, so making sure that the mind is still open to new experiences and maintaining that curiosity that drives, because without Sagittarius is a teacher, but a teacher isn't a teacher if there are no students. Gemini is that student side of ourselves, the ones always curious, always asking questions and challenging Sagittarius to change the answers as new information comes in and allow more a broader and more expansive worldview to emerge, which manifests as inclusiveness. So rather than judging other people because they're different to who we are, it's giving or radiating the fruits of the spirit. It's giving of having a generosity of spirit, of love, of beneficence towards other people, and having that kindness. So it's showing kindness and generosity to all beings. Obviously, it's necessary to maintain boundaries during this as well. I'm not saying that we just give ourselves over to anyone and everyone, or we try and help everyone at our own expense. It's important that we maintain our own boundaries so that we don't become used or we don't become drained by it all. But if we can achieve a sense of generosity and compassion towards ourselves, this then radiates out to the world around us, and it helps to change things in a more positive direction to what we may be seeing initially. But the change all starts within us, so we have to take that step initially to change our sense of who we are through challenging our own perceptions, challenging our own beliefs, and embracing more empowering perceptions and a wider worldview that incorporates both sides of any given truth and transcends apparent duality to see how things are actually interconnected and everything is part of the same thing. So this obsession with differences, which drives that sense of superiority and being I'm right, you're wrong, this can be transcended through expanding our perceptions, rising above the apparent duality to see the unity of the two opposing views into the yin and yang, the Tao. So that's a useful guide for the full moon. There's a lot there, but this is an opportunity for us all to expand our minds, to let go of limiting judgments, limiting beliefs, and to embrace a more empowering perception of ourselves, of what we're capable of doing, and having the belief and the faith to make things happen in line with the universal laws, so that we're creating something that will help ourselves, help other people, and it's all working in harmony with nature rather than clashing against it. So may you get many blessings from the full moon. Take care.